Miss Eliza from the Waukee Public Library, and I'm here with this week's Elementary Maker Monday. And for our fall food fun theme, today we're going to make gummy juice noodles. So this is a super fun kind of kitchen chemistry project, and it does have some specialized components this time. So we're going to walk through what you need, and then we'll get started. So for this project, you're gonna need a couple bowls. You're gonna want one that you can pour into, an empty one. You're gonna want a bowl just of fresh, clean water. And then you're gonna want a dish of water, like a baking dish, something that's kind of this size, a little bit shallower, that you can fill about halfway through with water. Eventually we're going to need a plate or some kind of tray that we can put our finished product on. And then to actually do the chemistry part, what we're going to use is juice, and this can be any kind of juice. It can have pulp in it. You can choose your favorite flavor. You can choose based on what you think would be the coolest color of gummy snack. So you're just going to need 1 cup. Any juice that you have on hand will work. And then the 2 special ingredients that you're going to need are 2 kind of chef supplies. Sodium alginate, which is this sort of powdery substance. And again, you can get this on like chef websites online. And if you got a pack from the library, it's already going to be pre-measured for you. And then the second one is calcium chloride. And this is basically just a condensed calcium, and it's in these little pearls, like little tiny mini beads. So again, that's something that you could get from like a cooking supply. And if you got it from the library, then it's pre-portioned for you. So you're also going to need some measuring stuff. We have a cup here. If you needed to measure out your chemicals, you'd need to use some measuring spoons, and then just a regular spoon for stirring. We also have this big blender here because for the first step, it works to blend the juice with the sodium. But if you don't have a blender, you can also just whip it up by hand. You just want to be really thorough to make sure you don't get any lumps. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing that we're going to want to do is pour a cup of juice into our measuring cup. That's the amount of juice that we want to start with. And I'm going to pour it in, but I think these little bottles, this is what came in the library pack, might be about a cup. So let's see, but looks like it'll be a little bit more. So I'm going to add this juice to the blender. And if you want to use a blender, make sure you get a grown-up's help before doing it. All right. Probably should stand up. All right, so we're gonna pour the juice right into the blender. And then you're gonna add in your sodium. So this is kind of a thickening agent. And you're gonna measure out 1 teaspoon. If you have the library pack, you can just dump it right in. All right. And then I'm just gonna seal this up, and we're just gonna mix it for a second. All right, so you can see as it's mixing, it's getting really bubbly, and that shows that it's kind of thickening and it's blending all that sodium into the juice mix. I'm gonna mix it a little bit more. All right, let's see how we did. So if you're mixing this with a hand mixer or just using a fork to mix it up, what you're gonna look for is you want to make sure that all of the lumps from that powdery sodium are all blended together. And then you're gonna wanna make sure that it feels like it's getting thicker as you're stirring. So if you go fast, you'll notice that it kind of thickens around your fork or spoon or whatever you're stirring with, and that's good, that's what you want. So once it's all blended together like that and it's gotten a little bit thicker, then you're gonna put it aside in a bowl and we're gonna let it rest. And you'll notice that bubbly layer kind of rises to the top again. So as this sits, those bubbles are gonna kind of pop and dissipate, and we want to see that there's just a thin layer of bubbles on top. That's how we'll know it's ready to go. So that is gonna take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. While we are waiting for that, we're gonna turn our attention to this water base. So this is the second part of the chemical reaction. So we've got our little baking dish, it's full of water, and then you're gonna take this calcium chloride, and you're gonna need 2 to 3 teaspoons. This doesn't have to be a super exact measurement. You're gonna put this into the water, and if you sprinkle it in, you'll notice right away it starts dissolving, but you can use a spoon to help it along its way a little bit. And this is gonna create calcinated water. So it's just water with added calcium, which is just gonna be the second part of the reaction for our gummies. So you're gonna wanna stir until these are dissolved, but they'll also dissolve over time on their own. So we're gonna let our juice mist rest for an hour, and we're gonna let our calcium water rest for an hour, and then we'll come back and see what happens. All right, so it's been a little over an hour, and we've got our juice mix in here. So you can see it's pretty thick, but most of the bubbles have kind of popped off. There's a little bit, but most of them are gone. And then we've got our water here. I also forgot to mention that to make the noodle shape of our gummies, you are gonna need a syringe. So if you got a pack from the library, it's gonna have this, and it does help you kind of make the shape out of your juice, but it's totally fine to just use a spoon. You'll just get more like candy shaped kind of blob shapes more than noodle wiggly shapes, but that's okay, and it's the exact same thing. Another thing that you might find helpful if you're interested in the eating part of this project is we put a little bit of sugar on a plate, and you can try kind of rolling them in that and tossing them if you want kind of a candy gummy. So we'll try that at the end as well. Okay friends, so this is where the magic happens. We've got our juice mixture here, and if you're using a syringe, you're gonna push it. You wanna make sure that it's closed to start, so you want the black part to be down towards the bottom. And you're gonna put the tip into the mixture and pull it up, and that should fill your syringe. And part of the reason that we were letting it sit is to get rid of some of the bubbles. So you want it to be pretty solid, not a lot of bubbles or air space in there. And then you're gonna come over to your calcium water, and you're just gonna drip it in. And you can see it's kind of making those noodly shapes. They're pretty thin right now. So you'll let those go in there. And when the sodium in this mixture reacts with the calcium in the water, it's making kind of a gel. So you can see they're kind of forming in here. They feel really slimy and kind of gross, but you can scoop them out, and you could use a spoon or your hands. You can see they're kind of noodly. And then you want to dip them in the water just briefly to rinse off some of that calcium. And then you can spread them out on your tray, your little jelly noodles. So you'll grab them, rinse them off, and then lay them out so that we can eat them in a minute. I'm gonna show you, if you don't have a syringe or if you wanna just try a different method, you can kind of make little blobs by just dipping them in there, and you'll see they kind of make little candy shapes, little candy blobs. And these are gonna work the same way. So you'll just let them react to that calcium in the water, and then scoop them out, rinse them off, and put them on your tray. Okay, so now we've completed all of our noodles and we're at the fun part. So you can try just going right in. Yep, tastes like a jelly version of that juice that we started with. That's pretty cool. If you want to too, you can take, especially this works with the little lumpy ones, and kind of toss them in sugar, and that kind of makes it more like a jelly candy, although it is pretty sweet, so don't ruin your supper. And you can also try it out with different techniques. So I'm gonna try to see if I can chopstick my noodle. It might be a little too slimy still. They do dry out a little bit if you leave them on the tray.